Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Can you see everybody? I can't.
I just switched mine to gallery view.
Oh, okay. I'll go do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Of course. I can still only see you.
You
Hello.
run over
Oh,
there.
hi. There we are.
Oh.
Oh, Barbara, are
Yeah.
you our new FinCom representative?
Yes.
Yay!
Thank you.
I'm very glad to hear that. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Thanks. Good, good, good. I'm so glad you're with us tonight, Tony, so you can give us the update on projects.
hmm
Okay, good. Who else have
I,
we
talked-
got on?
I talked to our website folks today too. If you want to get into
Yep.
electronic application talks.
Oh, yes. Nancy and Ellen have been on that. So we'll certainly look forward to having that conversation. So I'm looking for a quorum and who's on the call. So I've got Nancy and Dave. It's great to see you, Dave.
Yep.
Yeah. We've been missing you, so we're very, very glad to have you on. You're joining us. I have Jim Dolan.
Hi, nice to be with you.
Good to see you. I've got Ellen. Yes, there's Ellen. Austin.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Austin.
Hello, Barbara.
We have some members from the community. I see
I should know mine.
George.
Can you
Yep,
get me
I
a piece of tape, please? It's just Scotch tape.
Well, I'd like to help George, but I can't. This is Lynn Spencer speaking. Michelle Capano is on. Deborah Warren. I see Anthony Camilleri. I see as a member of the a member of the audience.
Anthony is a reporter from the Lynn Item.
Oh gosh, thank you. And Kay Alice. Not sure who Kay Alice might be, but what I don't see so far is Paul Spurn. 7:02, so we'll give him a moment more. Because he's the one that kindly set up this meeting.
I just texted Paul to see if something, see what's up, make sure he's joining.
Hello? Everyone hear me? Yes?
Yep.
Yes.
So a little bit of a victim of daylight savings, I think. So Paul will be with us momentarily. Barbara, are you planning to join us at every meeting? Or
I'm gonna sure try, yes.
that
Yeah.
would be great. We'll look forward to that.
Thank you, so will I.
I think that I'll get us started. And because we do have a quorum and we'll wait for Paul to catch up. But let me sort of formally say the meeting starts now at 7:06. This is the meeting of the community of Nahant's Community Preservation Committee. This is the first of starting the cycle for fiscal year 25 grant making. And I'm very glad to welcome committee members of the committee here tonight. Let me just ask for a roll call of who I have as committee members in attendance. Oh, here comes Paul Spurn. So I'll start at the top with Dave Wilson,
Yeah.
Nancy Catalmo,
Here.
Alan Goldberg,
Hi.
Austin Antrim,
Here.
Jim Dolan. That was a yes. And Paul Spurn.
That's here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, sorry.
Good. We have a full complement. We're joined by Barbara Beatty from FinCom, who is going to be our representative. We welcome you, Barbara. And Tony Barletta, who is our inestimable town manager and who's going to give us an update on where we are with our existing projects. We've got also members of the community on as well. So I'd like to start by welcoming you all. This is going to be the beginning of our round of grant making. I'm going to start by asking Alan and Nancy, who have been working on our application, to try to sort of fit it into an easier fillable format for the public to use. Can you just give us an update as to where that stands and what needs to be done to make that workable?
Yeah, Nancy, do you mind if I speak?
No, please do.
Okay. So as you might remember, at the end of the last season, we were, well, actually for the last grant cycle, we tried to, the goal was to get our form completely online, and so that it was not a fillable PDF that people had to download and fill in an email. It was, we had envisioned it being a form that people would fill out on the website and submit that way with any relevant attachments. That kind of got stymied and was a little bit dead in the water because we had trouble connecting properly and with enough time to the town's website developer. Now that we are early enough in the process, Nancy and I took the initiative and met last night to review last year's application. We sent it around to you all last night to the members of the committee, and thank you, Paul, for your comments. I looked them over already.
Great.
And so the goal would be to get this drafted on the website. As long as everybody still agrees, the goal should be to have it be an online form that people can fill in online and not have to deal with any PDFs anymore. The goal would be to get it to be submittable online through the town website. If everybody's still on board with that, then the next step would be to get a connection from Tony. I'm looking at you, to get a connection to the website developers who can build this on the back end for us. There is potentially another option if it seems like it's impossible for them to deal with it, but I feel like they should be able to work on it and they should be able to make it happen. But there's some technical questions they're going to have that we'll have to figure out how to make it actually happen. Like, so when you submit it, where does it actually go? Does it get saved somewhere? Or is it just simply an email process? Do we want people to be able to save their application and come back to it? If they do, then we need a place for that to be stored. So there's like some questions that we're going to have to get clarity on. And the only way to do that is to have this conversation with the website developer, get a draft of it, and then be able to bring it back to the committee for further edits. But I think what we have is a good start. Like I said, we did go through the edits last night. So I think the next step is to talk to the website developers, Nancy and me, right? Nancy,
Yep.
What else did I leave out?
No, that's fine. We just need to move ahead with this year so it makes it easier for people and us.
And that is the idea. We want really broad, easy participation in this grants process. I should just sort of reflect on the fact that it's important for us to think about the amount of money that we have for grant making. As I looked at what Allison shared with us and I shared with the committee in terms of CPA revenues for the past, for fiscal year 22, we had just under $540,000 for grant making. Last in fiscal year 23, we had 545,000. And so for fiscal year 24, that's still in the process. But I think in terms of planning purposes, we can be looking at upwards of $500,000 for grant making. Now, I've also shared with you the information that is coming out from the Community Preservation Coalition that does say that the state match is looking to be less than we've seen in the recent past. And that's because CP state match revenues are generated by real estate filings. And because the market has been slower, there have been less sales, there's been less going into that fund. At the same time, the coalition and other representative or other lawmakers have been looking at supplemental budget appropriations from the state. So I think that still is somewhat fluid. But we depend very much on Allison Nieto, who is superb in providing us with information that helps guide our planning process. The other point of what I'd like to cover tonight is both an update on where we are with the current grants that we have with the town, but then also putting together our schedule for the coming year. Tony, since I don't want to keep you all night, and I know that you frequently attend meetings, this might be a good time to sort of jump onto our current grants status and just a brief update as to where we are. Allison had provided, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, Lynn. Before you moved on to another topic, I was wondering if I could just ask one more question about the website thing.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I spoke with our website folks this morning that I wouldn't mind sharing some of that information too. So before we
Okay,
get
sorry.
into current status. But
Okay.
Ellen, did you want to ask another?
Yeah, my point is a comment and a question at the same time. It will cost some money to talk to them and to get them to build something. How much it will cost, I don't know. I don't know their hourly rate. I don't know what they're thinking in terms, because we haven't brought this up to them this year. I don't know how technically complex it needs to be for this particular website. So could be 2 hours, could be 8 hours. I really don't know. So I just we need some guidance and permission from the CPC to be able to spend that money out of our admin funds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some stuff is going to be, it's going to vary in price, kind of depending on what we're looking to do. I think the best, Ellen, you're pretty familiar with WordPress, aren't you? Kind of. Well, I think it would make sense to set up a meeting with you and our contacts over there and kind of talk through with them what, our hope is for this to look like. Hear some feedback from them as to what's doable, what isn't doable, what's costly, what isn't, and then kind of get a proposal and bring it back to the committee. But I can tell you that, in my conversation with them today, it's very simple. It shouldn't take a lot of hours for them to develop like a fillable form page on our website that would mirror a lot of most of what the application has. They simple stuff like text box, drop down options, yes, no buttons. That stuff is easy.
Right.
The one challenging part, which I think the committee is going to have to think a little creatively about, is the Excel. Like there's 2 questions that have like an Excel table,
those little tables,
out years and pricing. Right. If we can figure out a way for that not to be an Excel spreadsheet, and if for maybe it to be separate text box or drop down options or something like that, that's going to be, I think, a big piece of it. And then the information, when anybody fills out the form, it would produce an email to whoever we want. It could go to the whole committee, and it would give you basically the response that was submitted in each text box. And then they can produce, at the deadline, say after the deadline passes, they can produce a master sheet, that has all the applications with all the fillable information in it. Only thing she said, she did say, like, if you wanted it to be spit out from the website into like a PDF for each individual application, that would come with a little bit more costs.
Right.
So
that is something that we want
as a PDF.
Well, it could be a Word doc. If I said some kind of document, so it could be a Word doc. I was even thinking if they had to export it to an RTF, which is even more basic than a Word doc, that would be okay. Just something that compiles all of the answers into one document per applicant. But I think that maybe we should have this conversation with them. I don't know that we need, I think that this is the kind of discussion we need to have with them.
Yeah.
Right, which is why I wanted us to move on, because I think you should have it with the web developer and not this entire committee.
I think just thinking creatively about those 2 questions that come with the table, figuring out a different way for people to provide that information. The simplifying the application a bit too. I think you've already probably made some effort on that last year and probably last night. There was some questions that were kind of repetitive. I know one question, I deal with it every year when I apply. One question says like, tell us how your application meets, the goals in Appendix 1 or something. And then there's like 10 different things to answer. So I don't know if that's something
Yeah.
maybe instead of something like that, like actually creating a drop down or a text box. But that's stuff that Ellen, you and Kristen Potter from Guilfoyle can talk directly about, and then bring back, a concept and a price.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to be really expensive unless we ask them to do something crazy, which I don't think that's what you're looking to do anyway. So,
No. No, but
all
yeah,
right, so we'll get that scheduled.
yes. So that would be Nancy and me. And if you want to be part of that, Tony, of course, and anybody else in the committee
Maybe
is
just the
welcome.
first
But
one. Maybe I'll just be part of the first meeting to introduce
Whatever
you
you
guys.
want.
But
whatever you want.
Could we, Lynn, you had mentioned to me that you wanted to up the date this year?
Yes,
So it
because
might be good.
that's the next thing I wanted to go on to
Okay.
was schedule. Or one of the things I wanted to go on to.
Okay.
But anything more on the fillable application before we move on?
not for me.
Okay, great. Well then, Nancy, you just pulled up one of the things that was on the agenda, which is schedule. In the past, folks, we've actually had applications due near the end of January. I'd like to move that forward, but I'd love to hear from the committee about their views on this. Part of that gives us a little bit more time for our review and working with FinCom. But at the same time, it puts people in a position of having a little less time to do their applications. So I'm thinking mid-January for a due date.
Sounds fine to me. The 14th is a Sunday. 15th is a Monday of January.
Tony, I will reference this to you because very often the town is one of the most active applicants. How does that sound to you?
It sounds good. I mean, I think even, the earlier the better. Speaking on behalf of the finance committee, and I'm sure
What?
Barbara will jump in.
Pretty controversial.
What is?
The sooner that they get the recommendations from the CPC to start looking at them, and the sooner we can finalize the warrant, the better. We've tried to speed up, the towns and the FinCom's process. We've tried to move it up earlier in the season as well over the last couple of years. So it's fine. That works for me. No issue here.
Okay. Barbara?
I
Oh,
agree
you're
with what
muted.
Tony just said. It would be helpful for FinCom. Thank you.
Okay, good. So what about January 15th, Nancy?
That is MLK Day. You might want to just do it on the next day.
Ah, good point.
Yeah, it sounds fine.
Okay.
And if we announce that sooner, people can realize it sooner.
Exactly. So then we sort of move back to the public meeting portion of this. And that could put the public meeting as early as sometime in November or early December.
I think we should try to shoot for November, don't you?
We could do that. I mean, we could look at the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay. Me just, I'm gonna look at the Zoom calendar and see what's open on Monday night.
That would be good.
Do you think it's realistic that we would have our work done by then on the application?
I don't know.
That's a
for
that's a
you.
good
That's
question.
for you. Let us know.
Why don't I'll try to schedule. I know that she was down at a conference today and tomorrow, so I could send her an email right now and see if she has time later this week, Thursday maybe or something. I'll put you and Ellen and Nancy on the email. We'll try to meet with her as soon as possible so we can get an answer to that question.
That
Yeah,
would be
I
great.
wouldn't be, I'm tied up Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week at a 3-day staff retreat. So Friday would be a possibility, or sometime next week, or even the weekend.
Let me see if Monday the 13th works for her. But I'll send an email right now.
Okay.
That would be good. So why don't we sort of tentatively look at the 25th conditioned on where we stand with the application form? Otherwise, we could look at the following Monday. Wait, was I looking at, I was looking at the wrong day, the
Yeah.
wrong month. I meant November 27th.
November
Okay,
27th.
that
is the
sounds
one
good.
we're talking about, Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you need more time on that application form, we could look at December 4th. But let's try to stick with Mondays because that seems to be a good schedule for us. Now, what that could mean is as soon as I can get the green light on this, then I can work with Kristen to notify the committees and put out the newspaper ads. So depending on what kind of progress you see on Monday or on this Friday, Ellen, if that's the date for the meeting, if you could just zip me a text or an email, that would be helpful.
So we're tentatively looking at November 13th for our meeting.
No, 27th.
No, the meeting with the web designer.
Oh, sorry. Hour is a different hour than what I was thinking.
So you're thinking at the third,
Coney was gonna ask her.
Monday
I'm sorry,
the
the
13th.
13th, Monday
Yeah,
the
we're
13th.
gonna try and meet with her Monday the 13th, and we'll talk to her about the website application and
Mhm.
see what type of turnaround.
Okay.
Tony, just so you know,
And-
that's a busy day for me, but I have 4 o'clock free that day. I can hold it.
Yeah, try to hold it, I guess. I'll see.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know. I have no
I
idea. 4 works for
Yeah.
me. I'll just write that in the
Sorry.
email or if you want to respond. Friday, we're off Friday because it's Veterans Day observed
Oh, right.
this Friday, so I'm
Right,
going to Monday.
Okay.
that's fine.
Tony, just a technical point. Is there a reason for me to use B. Blair as the preferable scheduling identification for Zoom or your address?
I go with mine.
Go with yours. Okay.
Monday is usually not very competitive on the Zoom schedule either way.
All
But
right.
you're better off. The B Blair one tends to be the more used account, so go with the A Barletta one.
Well, no, but the reason is I don't want to. Well, I guess if we have 2 accounts, we could have simultaneous Zoom meetings, or do you prefer that we not do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So
That's why I have them.
simultaneous Zoom meetings is okay.
Yeah, that's why we have
Okay.
2 separate accounts because it's
I understand.
inevitable that 2 committees are going to meet on the same
Okay,
night.
that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Good
Okay.
enough. I'll do that then. Thank you.
Okay. So Tony, as long as we're on schedule and dates, could you just tell us when the town meeting is and when the deadline would be for town warrant information?
Well, I can tell you the town meeting would be the May 18th, the third
Mhm.
Saturday in May.
Yep.
I haven't backdated out, when the final warrant would be, when the warrant would be finalized.
Mhm.
But it would, typically you're talking end of March, right? Or
Mhm.
early April.
Yes, that's usually what it is.
Yeah. I gotta map that out anyways.
Mhm.
So I'll work on that and share with you guys.
Okay. That would be helpful. Thank you. All right. Okay, good. Since some of some of our revenues are sometimes derived not only from what we get from the CPA surcharge and state match, but also recovering or clawing back from past grants that haven't been active or fulfilled. So I don't want to go granular on this, but I would like to sort of look at where we are in terms of grant status at a high level. So Tony, I could just ask a couple of questions of you. I mean, I know it's a very long list, and some of the grants that were made last year are very much in process. But if we could look at some of the grants that are aging that you may have some knowledge of, I would appreciate it.
No problem. Just
Okay.
identify which one we'll talk about, and I'll put me on the hot seat. I'll answer as
I
best as
don't want
can.
to, I don't want to put you on the hot seat at all. Believe me. The public ways grants, we gave another grant last year, but we've got some other sort of slightly aging ones going. But I know the public ways situation is something that the community is very engaged in. So maybe you could just give us a sense of where that is right now.
Some of the older public ways CPC grants have very little amounts of money left in them.
Very
Like
small.
1,000, 2,000, small dollars. And I know that the Open Space Committee has been working on replacing some of like the Heritage Trail maps and things of that nature. So we were hoping to utilize some of those still, existing funds to pay for some of those costs.
Well, actually, I have a grant that goes back some years of $9,244. That's a balance, a big one. So I think it really can. The idea was to consolidate it with the new grant that was given for $20,000 and to make progress with, signage and so on those sites. So just a
The one that we just approved last year, the
Mhm.
first step there is to have title research be done.
Right.
Some of these rights of ways, the title research may identify a need for a town meeting vote
Mhm.
to make something official or transfer or whatever. We're not really sure what we'll get into, so we're getting into that process now, so that if a town meeting vote is required for anything like that, we'd be ready for springtime.
Okay.
And that's really like the first step, is to ensure that our title on all of these rights of ways are sound before we start mapping and identifying and kind of encouraging usage of them.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good one. And it's complicated. I will say it's complicated. Another one that has been out there for a bit of time is the town hall handicapped access project.
Yeah. Yes. I had our, I guess, de facto historical building engineer, Richard Smith, take a look at that, as he's looked
Mhm.
at many other projects related to town hall and the cemetery and the library. The estimated cost on it was alarming, for what seems to be such a simple project. So we're kind of exploring, what our options are. We've recently hired an experienced mason at the DPW. We've hired an experienced contractor as well. And with Zach's expertise, we may be able to do it in-house under the current budget. I think if we contract it out to replace that ramp and whatever the needs might be, we may exceed the existing budget. So it's kind of in a holding pattern at the moment of trying to figure out how we're gonna get going on that project. Like I said, the estimated cost of it was quite high.
Okay. Well, good luck. Let us know. I think I continue to feel that not only dealing with the ramp, but dealing with internal access and hardware and a lot of other things would be priorities. So it's a $165,000 grant. And if you're able to do it in-house and we can apply some of that access work to other parts of the building, that would make a lot of sense. Because I think
Yeah.
it's our obligation to the citizens of the community that full access should be possible to all floors and all rooms. Well, another town hall project, the Council on Aging kitchen.
This project we are been at the drawing board for a while on, but
I know.
not in a stalling pattern at all. Very much we've been making small bits of progress, but again, another budget issue type project where it seems like every time we make some progress, we're told about another thing that would be required for us to do when we make this improvement, and that would add X amount of dollars onto the project, and and then it triggers a different level of procurement, and it's not as, when it comes to procurement, if we're talking about like paving a road, it's simple. If you're talking about doing a ramp, it's simple. A kitchen, it's so complicated because there's so many different trades involved. Plus, we're in a historical building, so we're trying to make progress on that as quickly as we can. But like I said, we keep kind of running into some budgetary battles.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question about that project? To step back a bit, what would happen if the Council on Aging found another venue that was preferable to City Hall, Town Hall rather? Would a kitchen installed in that basement be useful for other purposes?
Yeah, it could be. Even if they didn't move to a different venue, the Council on Aging pretty much shuts down at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
So there's evening usage and weekend usage that we could explore as opening the kitchen up for like a community rental kitchen space. and then alternatively to that, the town hall is a secondary emergency shelter too.
Right.
So if we were ever in that situation, it'd be good to have the kitchen there. So yeah, there's some
Okay,
additional uses.
okay.
But just to be clear,
If
sorry,
no, go ahead, Lynn. Sorry.
I was just going to say, just to be clear, that $50,000 is for town hall. It's not transferable to another site. It's for town hall to do code-related improvements in that historic building for a kitchen. So,
Right.
Mhm.
Well, that was assumed in my question, Lynn.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I know it was site determined. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't necessarily organization determined.
right.
There's
It was a good
so
question.
as the yeah, and just so you know, I think we're on the same page with that, and I think if this project, there's a number that once this, the cost of this project exceeds that number or projected to exceed that number, you have to start asking the question about, is it really worth it to do it here, or should we be exploring an alternative venue? And if we were to do that, we would understand that the 50,000 from the CPC wouldn't go with it, and we'd have to search for additional, alternative funding. So that is on our mind, and I'll keep you guys as updated as I can as we go.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. We also have some money left over in the bonds that were taken for the library, town hall, and the cemetery. And that's specifically for we know that town hall work has been done, the library work has been done, but the cemetery gate, and I think of Dave Wilson on this, is continuing to be a project that needs attention. So any progress on that?
On the library, there was one left over item, which was the replacement of the sandstone that was around the windows face on the Pleasant Street side that had been eroding, and I believe those were replaced, within the last month.
Okay.
So that's good news that that's finally, checked off. It took a long time to source those matching blocks.
Yep.
Like
I appreciate
8
that.
months. Yeah.
I'm very familiar with stone delivery times. I think 8 months is good.
Yeah. Again, we worked with Richard Smith on the gate, and he took a look at it, got some price quotes. His initial assessment was that it couldn't just be repaired, it almost needed to be deconstructed and then reconstructed, which I think I may have shared a draft or a preliminary estimate from him. I think I may have shared with you, Lynn, and it far exceeded the $100,000 I think we have left in that bond for the gate. So we asked him to kind of go back to the drawing board and really figure out would it absolutely need to be that much of a project. And he was in the process of doing that, but I should check in with him on where he is.
I think that would make sense. I mean, I know you did share that with me, and I know that he's consulted with John Watney, who's a very experienced structural engineer on that. I think it may need to be actually sounded to actually understand how much of that masonry is deteriorated. So I don't know, does the town hall have a bucket truck available by any chance? Anything you use for trees and so on?
No, but you mean to evaluate it, you mean?
Yeah. I think you would
Um,
find it better to actually have John Watney and Richard Smith physically sounding that structure to understand how much of it
I-
needs to be reconstructed.
I think they've done that. I think they came up, they met with Zach. I think they did that.
Did
And
they?
he was
Okay.
gonna be writing something up,
Oh, okay.
as, what they discovered.
Mhm.
I should check in with them and find out where they are with that. I think they did. I think the two of them met Zach up at the cemetery to take a closer look at it, because I had sticker shock from the first estimate. And I
Yeah.
was like, you got to take a closer look at this. I can't just, well, we don't have the funds to proceed if that was going to be the cost anyway. So I remember it being over 100,000. So
Yeah, well, I'm showing that you've got $177,000 left in that account based on what Allison sent to me.
I think the 77 or 70 maybe of that was for that final piece on the library, and it
Got
might not be updated.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, let's sort of keep pushing along on that one, because that one has people going in and out of that gate, and it's not good. It's not good.
So, Lynn,
Yep.
this is Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love to hear from you.
Actually, I did meet with the engineers with Zach. There's more to it than there is on the sides. The sides now are getting water in it, and the stones are starting to crack and separate. So that's why his original estimate, was a complete tear down. And if you
Mhm.
look at it closely, it's the sides are the ones that are crumbling down, not the top. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see his report when he's done.
Yeah. We'll look. Yeah. Let's push along on that, Tony, so we can understand this, because if there's a need to sort of look at, the possibility of an additional appropriation in this next cycle, we should jump on it. Because it really, I'm with Dave. I've looked at it recently, and it's not good. It's not good.
It's also one of those things where I almost would want to time it up.
I see it.
The application, town meeting, and procurement,
Mhm.
because we've already gone back to town meeting for additional funds.
Right.
For, we went to them for library, town hall, cemetery, and then we came back a second time for library, town hall, cemetery, or actually, I think it was just town hall, cemetery. So I really want to make sure that if I'm going to town meeting for more money through CPC, that it's the right number. So
Couldn't agree
I don't
more.
know.
Yep.
I don't to think about the timing of procurement on that, and how long someone is maybe we could ask someone to hold their price in the initial RFP, like that they're gonna have to hold it for 90 days versus 30, because we have to get to town meeting to approve. Although that might entice them to bump up their price, it might entice them not to bid. It's tough. This is always one of the biggest challenges with timing it up with town meeting.
I agree with you. I think 30 days is possible. I've had them hold for 6 months, but you will pay for it.
Yeah, you pay for it, and you can't. 30 days is. You guys have so many different applications in front of you. So many. You're juggling that 500,000 and trying to figure out how to fit it in. How can you do that with? It would need to be held for longer than 30 days. It'd have to be closer to 90.
Yeah, 90.
So,
Like I said,
I'll-
90, I think is doable. It shouldn't cost you a premium. 6 months would.
Yeah.
If I misspoke, let me just clarify that.
Yeah.
But Dave, thank you for chiming in there. I know you're in and out of that cemetery all the time, watching that gate.
If any committee members go by and take a look, really look down at the base of the
Right.
gate. At the base where it meets the ground, you'll see how much that's eroded.
Yeah, the buttresses are in tough shape.
Yeah.
I'm excited, however, to see here that you have DPW has a mason joining the staff, because we've got probably a half mile of stone wall
Yep.
at the cemetery that requires attention.
I know.
So,
We just
yeah.
gotta get the right mixture of mortar, and get a lot of it, and then get to work.
Great apprentice program too, by the way. Okay. Well, those were my biggies. Committee members, did you have other projects that, as you looked at that list, you wanted to sort of chime in on at this point?
You're muted, Paul.
Doug, are you talking? Paul, you're muted.
Yeah, now I'm not, I hope. Let's talk about the pickleball courts. It doesn't look like anything's been spent there. What's the prognosis, Tony?
If it's not updated on the sheet, we spent some money on the paint. The paint's gotten done.
Right,
The next part is the lighting. So I have Ed Poulin putting together. I spoke with Kristen Kent, the Concom agent, because it's going to require going through the Concom, because we're going to be, removing some vegetation and installing some underground conduit. So I'm trying to get a plan from Ed Poulin to submit to the Concom for review. Go through that process, and hopefully we're installing the underground conduit and the poles and lighting, right after winter.
so okay. All right, so is your horizon to get everything functional for an outdoor season next spring?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I was debating trying to get like at least the conduit underground now,
Right,
but then ran into the Concom snag. So we have to go to Concom before
I see.
doing that. So
Are you,
but they know it's coming.
and they're being responsive, and can get it done in a quickly enough so we can get our contractors lined up and getting to work? Okay,
Yep, contractors are more or less lined up and
All right.
ready to go. Obviously, going into the winter isn't ideal. So just getting it through Concom is the next step. Kristen Kent sounded a little hesitant at first, but then when I explained to her, on the wooded side, that there's existing poles there that,
Right.
we'll remove the old ones and, remove 2 old ones and put 2 new ones up. That she didn't seem to have an issue with. So
Okay.
now it's just a matter of putting it on a plan
Great.
and getting it in front of the committee.
okay, thank you, Tony.
Well, since we're talking about, I wasn't going to touch on recent grants, but since we're there, I just do want to congratulate you on the Little Nahant playground. I love driving by and
Yeah, it
seeing
came
what
out
you've done
really-
there. So thank you for all
Thank you
your
guys.
efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, very
Thank
nice.
you guys for the support on that.
And I know
I
you had a
love that.
lot of community engagement, so good for you, Tony, for that.
I love it's a whale, right?
Yeah.
Is it a whale?
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
It's great.
Tony, you
We
might want.
named the whale. We named the
you
whale
might-
George after George Mahovan.
You might
Who's
want
on
to
the call.
consider a small supplementary grant. I heard some parents saying it would be really nice to have some shade trees.
Yep, we talked about some trees. It's really a tough location.
Yeah, I know, there's a lot of
For
wind, a
tall
lot of
enough.
wind.
Yeah,
Yep. and
they're tall
salt
enough
air.
trees, but we're gonna try to do something. I also heard from some of the residents there, could we add a slide and, maybe we could expand the size of that playground. So maybe we'll come back for slide money as well.
Mhm. Well, since we're just talking about shade trees, what about the trees at the golf course? Is that going to
Yep.
push along?
So we spoke with the golf course. We spoke with the tree warden, identified locations and the best types of trees to go in those locations. I briefly talked with the open space committee about it. But springtime is the best time to plant those types of trees. So we're hoping to do that in the spring.
That's a great project. Okay, committee, any other things you'd like to raise with Tony? On the past projects floating out there? Well, then otherwise I'd like to go on to the housing production plan, which is a grant that this committee awarded last year. I had included a link of that plan, which came from the town website. That's coming into its very final, stage of review. I believe that the Board of Selectmen are discussing it on Wednesday, Tony. Am I correct in that?
It's a joint meeting of the planning board and the Board of Selectmen to adopt the plan.
Yeah, to actually adopt it. Yeah. I've had the privilege of serving on this committee, which was being chaired by Michelle Capano, who has done a superb job with this, working with the consultants and with a very active committee. But I certainly want to give Community Preservation Committee members the opportunity to raise any questions or comments. I think we are very fortunate that Michelle is with us tonight, along with Josh Antrim from the Board of Selectmen. But here's the time, folks. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have to admit, I haven't read this and I will, so I can't ask any intelligent questions.
Okay.
I skimmed it, and I just want to say it is clear that Michelle and team put an awful lot of thought and hard work, and I want to thank you for that.
Anyone else? Dave, I don't want to put you on the spot, but as a member of the Housing Authority, I think you probably have also had some time looking at this report. If this is not the time to raise any comments because you want a little bit more time, by all means, attend the joint meeting of the Planning Board and Board of Selectmen on Wednesday. What time is that meeting, Tony?
6:30. It's a Zoom meeting.
Yeah. I do want me to remind people that this is a plan. This is not saying there's going to be, a development started here or there next week. What the plan does is identify a series of sites throughout Nahant, which could be possible sites for affordable housing development or retrofitting of existing sites for affordable housing. But it's all about promoting, diversity and equity in our community. It also deals with the state's mandated 3A, which is a zoning amendment, which is why the planning board is very much involved with this, that it does encourage density in relation to public transportation, either served by Nahant as it is by bus or nearby as it's served in the city of Lynn. So there's a lot of different layers to this report. And I think it is, as I've listened to community feedback and community interest, I think there's high community interest in what this report is putting forth. So take a look at it. And as I said, plan on attending the meeting on Wednesday. So folks,
Lynn,
yes,
I was just gonna also add, Zach and I met with Nancy and other members of the Open Space Committee recently, talked a little bit about open CPC grants that fall under open space category, and talked a little bit about potential future applications for this upcoming year. So on the open space side, the ball's already rolling in that regard. And one of the things I mentioned about existing projects is the Fort Ruckman area. Plantings went in this
Mhm.
fall.
Yeah.
We have additional, I think we have some additional funds to do additional plantings in the spring. But it's, it's really towards the end of that project. It's almost completely done. So, and it's gorgeous. If anyone hasn't had a chance to go take a look, I highly suggest you go take a walk up there. Maybe tomorrow, I think, is going to be a little bit of a nicer day, but before it gets too cold.
I agree. It does look great. And I think the efforts of Zach and his team, along with the Open Space Committee and you, Tony, are really commendable. It's sort of setting a standard that I hope we'll see for the rest of Fort Ruckman, because there's a lot more out there. And I'm really looking
Mhm.
forward to seeing the implementation of the recommendations for the Lodge Park improvements, which were funded last year. And again, it started with a planning grant, which the Open Space Committee initiated. And I think this idea of doing planning that then guides, that sets the standards and guidelines is very helpful. So, okay. Well, in terms of new business, I'm looking
Well,
for
Lynn,
anything from our
Could I
committee.
ask a very basic question?
Sure.
Which fiscal year are we beginning now? Which grant cycle are we beginning?
25.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. It commences July 1st, 2024. I know it's just
Right.
confusing, but
Yeah,
that's the
well,
way it
that
works.
needs to be corrected on the application as well.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does.
It always confuses me. And then, so if that's the case, and we are now living in fiscal 24,
Mhm.
okay, why are the figures for funds in 24 not on that spreadsheet you sent us?
Because they are
Am I
being,
looking in the wrong place?
no, I shared with you what Allison sent to me.
Right,
I think they're still collecting the
see.
surcharge and the state match.
I
And the
see.
state
Okay,
match comes in 3 segments.
okay. Yeah, it
As a
looks like,
3% community, we are entitled to the highest percentage of the state match.
oh, sure.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the timetable was such that
Mhm.
by the middle, almost, well, not the middle, I'm sorry, we're like 4 months into the
Yeah.
fiscal year, all we got is $35,000 in the till. So you're telling me that it will come.
It will come.
Okay,
And what you're showing there is in the existing amount is the monies that push forward from the 10% for, in this case, affordable housing.
oh, okay, got it. Can
All
I ask
right,
one
well,
more question that I think I know the
sure.
answer to, that
Yep.
the public might want to know, that if we make a grant for a project and the money is not spent, I've heard people say that money goes back to the state, and that is not correct. Can you endorse that?
I certainly can. That's why we look at those past grants, and if they're
Right.
not active, we claw it back and it goes into the general reserve, the
Right, so
CPA
it's
general reserve.
available for however we choose to use it subsequently.
Right.
Good.
So for instance, right now in our general reserve, we have $169,663.85.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have grants that aren't active and we claw them back, we actually go through the town meeting process to do that. One year we clawed back 29 cents, which I thought was pretty good. Pretty good. But other times it's been, appreciable amounts. And that's why if we have a project that isn't going to move forward, then we don't want it to languish too long because it can
Right.
be put to good use.
Right, right.
I now will ask if there's any comments or questions from the listeners, if they will indicate their questions by raising their hand.
You mean in a Zoom fashion or in a real
I
fashion?
mean, in a Zoom fashion or whatever fashion they want to. Shout out. I don't care. Well, it looks pretty quiet out there. So in terms of our next meeting, if the grants committee, if Ellen and Nancy are meeting on the 13th of November, can we meet on the 20th, the following Monday, which will be the week of Thanksgiving week? So
So
we'd
that
be
would
in good
before the
shape.
Public meeting.
So we'd be in good shape for the public meeting on the 27th. That makes sense, Ellen and Nancy? And Tony
Yeah,
and your web
I
designer.
mean, I don't know what we'll have to report, but hopefully we'll have met and, we'll have some information for you.
Actually, I got to take that back. If we were going to have our meeting on the 27th, I'd actually need to know the week of the 13th, whether the application would be ready. Because I've got to work with putting out the notices to folks. So that would be simply the meeting notice and the fact that, it doesn't have the application doesn't have to be on the website and ready, but it has to be almost ready.
I don't know enough about their process to be able to make an informed comment without having a conversation with them. I wish I could tell you more, but I just don't have insight into that.
So after we have our meeting, then we can inform Lynn about what they
Right.
tell us. Like, yeah, they can do it for us, by the 27th or whatever. So they should be able to tell us that.
Right, but remember, we were also going to ask them to work up they have to give us a price, so they need to take this back
No.
and give us a
No,
proposal.
no,
So
No. Let's just do it.
Right, I wouldn't worry about
Okay.
the price.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I
Okay.
can't imagine it being, I can't imagine it being over like $1,000. It's gonna be a few $100 that, I can't
Oh, yeah.
imagine it being
I mean, even if it's $5,000.
crazy amount of money.
We have plenty of administrative money.
Okay, okay.
We don't
Oh,
spend.
okay. So then that bottleneck is gone. So the real question is, we just have to meet with them and
just
get
do
this
it.
on their
Ellen, and
schedule and
if
figure out.
she can meet, like me and Nancy later this week, I know you're busy, but to speed up the process, are you comfortable with that?
No, Ellen has to be involved in this. She is the person with the most tech experience that we need.
Sure.
Yeah, it's better if I'm there. It'd be like asking, it's better if I'm there.
Can I-
Let's
Well,
not
I can
let's
send
not
them,
be.
why don't I do this? I'll send her I'll send her the email you shared with the committee on the application.
Okay.
And see if, if
That's
they
fine.
could get started on maybe like a draft you
They
know,
need to
unpublished
think it through.
page.
They need to think
Yeah.
it through. And they need to ask questions about how to handle certain things. And we need to figure out workarounds for the financial table.
They might have
Um,
some ideas or options to provide you to consider.
Exactly.
anyway, so.
That's why we have to have this conversation. Exactly.
But I
will
agree
have
that-
ideas.
But if Tony sent it to her ahead of time, then she wouldn't have to take the time to think it through before we met. So
Yeah,
that would
I'll send it to her and I'll ask her to get started, and then,
be great.
you know, hopefully she'll have something to show us in the first meeting on the 13th and have some answers, and, you know.
I think
Yeah,
given,
You just referenced those financial tables, the grids. That might be something you could work on between now and when you meet with her. I don't know if you have the time to do that, but I get the feeling that that's going to be the critical element in the transition.
It's going to be them translating that grid into something that will be a user-friendly interface.
Yes.
So I really need to talk to them about what's possible on their end
Oh, okay,
and what we'd be willing to accept.
sure.
so being totally ignorant about the technical challenges here, in listening to this further, I do think that rather than trying to aim for the public meeting on the 27th, we probably are more prudent to put it on the 4th of December. So that gives us several weeks. And you know, what I would like to be able to do is put out the public notice so people are starting to think about grants. They don't have to have the form ready for them to fill out. They need to start thinking about their projects and developing them. To me, then that would make sense to try to get that notice out the week of the 13th, which gives, you know, 3 weeks notice for a meeting on the 4th of December. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
And when do you anticipate having a meeting of our committee before that? Which date?
I still would like to do that if I could on the, and I will defer to Ellen and Nancy and Tony on this, but that would either be on the 20th or the 27th.
Okay, fine. So I will make a Zoom appointments for the 20th, the 27th, and the 4th of December.
Mhm.
Those are not to appear on the town calendar, so they don't have to be formally canceled. We just don't do them. If
Okay,
the only meeting we have to deal with formally is one that appears on the town calendar. So, and that we can wait to put that on until much closer to the meeting after
Okay.
these contingencies clear up.
okay,
So I don't see a problem with that.
all right. Ellen, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I just put, so yeah, you will have more information hopefully after we meet with this person. So you want us to hold the 20th and the 27th for
Yeah.
potential meetings here, and then the 4th as a tentative public meeting.
Right. And then I'll work with Kristen at Town Hall to get the notices out. And that goes to the committee, to the town's committees, as well as the nonprofits in town.
And then when do we start our weekly meetings? I mean, do we wait for the grant deadline and then
Yep.
we start our meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
yep. So then
So
we
we just
have
have
that. Yep.
Go ahead.
So after, if the grant deadline is July or January 16th, then we would sort of begin to cycle the following Monday. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I think unless there's anything else that flies into somebody's mind other than a motion to adjourn,
so move.
I'm waiting for it.
So
Paul
move.
made it. I second. Nancy.
Okay. Right, thank you. All in favor? I'll do a roll
Aye.
call.
Aye.
Okay. I got 2 ayes. Do I have an aye from you, Nancy?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
Thank you,
very much.
More,
everyone.
more later. All right. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night now.